Hey everybody, Mike from Fortinet Guru here. This is going to be a very brief video that basically goes through and explains how to do a basic configuration on the FortiGate. So I have a FortiWi-Fi 61E here. It's factory reset, so this is exactly how it looks whenever you get it. The internal interface is by default 192.168.1.99. Default password is nothing for the username admin. So by default, the 61E comes with 5.4.1 firmware code, at least at the time of this recording. Um, it deploys automatically in NAT mode, and this is a general drill down of everything. So you have your FortiGate. Usually the first thing I like to do is change my host name. You don't have to. You can leave it as serial if you like. Um, but some of the main things that you're going to want to look at. So by default, Fortinet has started releasing these things with an all allow policy. Um, I'm a security vendor by heart, so obviously I don't like the idea of that. I want to explicitly allow any traffic that's flowing. So I have this, I go ahead and just delete that default one. That default one's basically just there to make it really easy to put the gate in line. So you have your network and your interfaces. This particular unit has two WAN interfaces, a DMZ interface, and then the internal. So just for the sake of this video, I'm going to leave the internal as is. Um, Usually most people change the address of the LAN interface to 192.168.1.1 or 10.0.0.1, etc. But just for the interest of this, we're going to leave it here. So step one is you plug your WAN interface in. Depending on your internet provider, you may or may not have a static IP. Most people will just leave this on DHCP. So it's fine and dandy. You know, it automatically pulls the IP. It'll automatically pull DNS from there as well. Um, I tend to tell that to not override internal DNS. And of course, on FortiGates, the FortiOS 5.4 code gives you the ability to assign a role. And then you can also estimate the upstream and downstream bandwidth for your interface. So we're just going to leave that as is. We have our LAN. DNS. These are the FortiGuard servers. Uh, I personally prefer using Google Quad 8 and 8.8.4.4. But these are good servers to use. They'll, be clean because obviously, it's connected to FortiGuard and uses FortiGuard servers, so they know what's up. First thing I would do whenever you set up your administrator or whenever you set up your FortiGate is to change this, mainly because the default password is no bueno. So for the sake of this video, I'm just going to change it to password. Okay. So you've got your internet plugged into WAN 1. It's pulling an IP. You have your LAN set up how you want. For the sake of this video, like mentioned, we're going to use the defaults. Now you have to set up your policy. If your network connection on your WAN side is DHCP, your routing will be predefined. If it's not, your provider will have provided you your static IP as well as your gateway address. You'll just create a default route, which is this, telling it to go to that interface and then whatever IP that they give you. And then basically the only other thing is configuring of policy. So the way I like to approach policy, which is actually going to be a majority of this video because setting up your WAN and your internal interface is pretty straightforward. I like to break my policies out by service. So having allow all just for the sake of, hey, I don't want my stuff to be broken. Okay. See, so that policy will allow any traffic you want. And then I'll insert a policy above it. Well, this one will do HTTP. will do one for HTTPS. And a lot of people like to ask, well, why are you breaking these two apart? Well, because I only want to do SSL intercept or deep packet inspection on that protocol. In this particular case, it'd be a waste to apply it to HTTP traffic. It's not really going to be going through that. So you apply those, insert another policy above. This one's going to be for DNS. So this policy will actually disable this one because we're security folks. We don't want to allow just anything. These three policies will allow your inside devices to surf the internet. Um, Obviously, if they want to be able to access email, you need to have a policy to allow email. And then things like, oh, I need to be able to do FTP. Well, there we go. Basic set of policy. I like to break my policies up based on service. Reason being, I only want to apply layer 7 UTM functions to certain services for certain things. So I don't want my FortiGate to have to run through and do, you know, AV, web, DNS, app, CASI, deep packet inspection on DNS traffic. It'd be a waste of time. Um, so you take it, you break it out, and then I like to position my policies top to bottom based on the policy that I feel is going to be hit the most. Reason being, FortiGate doesn't have to run through each policy and get down to DNS that's way down here. Makes the FortiGate not have to work as hard, makes things a little bit more efficient for you, and all is good in the world. So that is your policy. And then of course, if you wanted to apply any layer 7, the defaults are okay. From a best practice standpoint, I do not suggest using any of the default policies because you update your firmware, all of a sudden what was in that security profile by default is not there anymore, and it can end up leaving you high and dry. So let's see. On this one, I actually want to do app control. But this lets you get really, really granular with your policy set. This policy is only going to allow DNS, and it's going to apply the DNS security profile to it. There's no point in trying to run through the schematics of that profile on these policies. DNS is a very, very chatty protocol. It's going to get hit a lot. It's not going to be a ton of bandwidth, but it's going to be a lot of hit count. So you might as well put it up top. And then you just run through. You break them out however you want. Obviously, if you nuke something, you can put your handy dandy allow all policy live. But usually, people just recommend looking through your forward traffic and finding the one that's nuked, and making a policy specifically for that. But once you have your policy set, your WAN interfaces set up based on how your internet provider requires, and your LAN interface set up to your liking, you're good to go. That is a basic FortiGate configuration. Obviously, this particular deployment doesn't follow 100% best practice. For instance, I wouldn't do a source of all on my production environment. My source would be whatever the subnet is for my LAN, or if I only have a specific machine that I want a certain type of traffic to go from, it would be locked down to that /32. So little nuances like that. I also tend to use zones, which are really cool. Mainly because it makes it easy for me. I like to do things like this. I like my policy as simple as possible. Oh, zone, Michael zone. So I create an inside zone that has my LAN, an outside zone that has my WAN. And then from there, you do the same exact policies, except it's perfectly clear, no matter what environment you're in, that is HTTPS out, you know, and it's going from the inside to the outside. I did a lot of this in as a contractor for the DoD. It made their deployments a lot more simple. Um, you know, that this policy will allow traffic from anything in the inside zone to anything in the outside zone, truck through. Um, Zones will help you keep your sanity, especially if you have multiple inside interfaces on the inside of your gate, but that's really out of scope for this video. So that's the basic configuration of a FortiGate. I mean, the three main things that you need, obviously you need your WAN interface to be connected to your ISP and set up according to your ISP's instructions, whether that be DHCP or a static IP address. You need your LAN network to be set up accordingly. You can leave it at 1.99, but you don't have to. Um, and of course, you need your policies to allow the traffic. Um, I mean, the gate for the most part comes out of the box ready to go. You can change your SSID for your Wi-Fi. You can change your DHCP server if you like. Little nuances like that. But that's your basic FortiGate configuration. Um, if you have any questions, comment below or comment on the site. Thank you.